Hello, this is Cindy again with the fifth insider's look at K-12 education. This week's topic is sexual predators and sex trafficking in our K-12 schools. But before I start, I'd like to mention that most everything that I speak about in my media posts, I do have documentation for. I just wanted people to realize that. Getting back to our topic for this week, a day really can't go by when we don't see a story in the news about another predator being arrested or disciplined in a K-12 school. We're almost becoming numb to the news, but we can, of course. It's more serious than you even think because the schools are not doing something about every predator, and they also discourage employees from reporting them by retaliating against the whistleblower as usual. Now, my adult son recently reminded me that I became a teacher kind of accidentally as a second career due to a sexual predator. He wisely said that maybe I should have realized what was in store for me from the beginning. I think he was right. My career started because of a predator, and it ended because of one. Many of you probably have read my stories in Twitter posts and a Daily Caller article about my last K-12 experience dealing with a sexual predator situation in a certain school district that I won't name in this video. I will talk more about it later in this media post. In my children's high school 20 years ago, they lost their English teacher a week before school was scheduled to begin. He had been fired for dating students and giving them alcohol and drugs. Well, as fate would have it, I happened to be standing in the office when I heard the administration complaining about this. Without thinking, I volunteered to help since I had a degree in English along with some limited experience in teaching. And the rest is history. I loved it and stayed there for a few years before moving on to my many odd experiences in various schools. Let me tell you about a few of my experiences with this very serious and sad issue. Many years ago, in my 8th year of teaching, a few female employees and I reported a colleague for sexual harassment of us and a female student. We went to our female vice principal because we felt comfortable talking to her, but we were not prepared for what came next. Yeah, they did the right thing and fired the sexual predator, but they came after all of us, except the student, as far as I know. We were all interrogated by the school lawyer, and yes, it felt like more of an interrogation than a compassionate interview of people who had been harassed and had bravely come forward. We felt like we had done something wrong. When the legal report came out, I was actually placed on probation and told that I had to go through confidentiality training because I had called the vice principal during the investigation to tell her I was confused and wary about the way this was being handled. Well, the report said I had not kept this confidential by talking to her, even though she was the very individual whom we had given all our information to in the first place. It made no sense, and I was just outraged. I found a lawyer, and I've had to use his services several times since then in other schools. He told me to just be cooperative and go through the confidentiality training, to start off with. My training was conducted by the principal, and he also said he wasn't being treated well because he had not noticed the harassment and we had not reported our concerns to him. Well, we didn't report to him because he was male and we felt more comfortable talking to the female vice principal. But in all fairness to him, we thought he was a great principal, and we didn't expect him to notice a clever sexual harasser in a school of almost 1,000 students. So at least the principal did this training with me and frankly called it a joke. So this part of my retaliation was not too unpleasant. After this training was concluded, I was taken off probation. I was also praised by district administrators for coaching a team of students who won second place in a televised statewide grammar bowl. So I thought, all was okay, but no, it wasn't. The other women who reported the harassment with me were suddenly one by one being fired for bogus reasons, until I was the last one left. It became clear to my lawyer and me that I was probably next. Since I had success, though, with the Grammar Bowl, and there was even publicity in the media about our achievement, it was going to be difficult to find a reason to fire me. Instead, they began to mistreat me, probably in hopes that I would just quit. First, they unfairly removed and demoted the principal and replaced him with this vice principal that we had reported to, who suddenly was no longer this nice person to me. She found so many ways to make my life difficult. So I filed a report with my lawyers advice with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, which we know as the EEOC, and then I did resign. Now, in order to take legal action, you need the EEOC to investigate and give you permission to sue. The EEOC deals with discrimination based on a bunch of things: person's race, color, religion, sex, national origin, age, disability, or genetic information, but also deals with retaliation for reporting discrimination to an employer. Well, it took the EEOC almost 2 years to investigate, which is typical. They're quite backlogged, and I was given the right to sue. So, they did come out in support of me. However, I decided not to sue by them because my lawyer had reason to believe that this school would have been dangerous to go after and my safety would have been in jeopardy. He said he rarely sees something like that, but in this case, he was advising me to do that. My next experience occurred when I first became a school counselor a few years ago. I had been hired through the school safety grants to only do crisis counseling. One day, 6 girls came into my office and provided me with graphic details about a teacher who had been sexually harassing them. Well, I documented what they had said and then called the vice principal. He told me to send him the information, but he said I wasn't supposed to tell anyone else about it. Well, something felt wrong about that, so I checked out the state statutes and confirmed that the police are supposed to be notified about sex crimes in the school. I then called the school resource police officer, and she was outraged that the vice principal did not pass on the information to her like he was supposed to. She told me they had already had a statement from just one girl who had gone with her parents to the principal with love letters sent by the teacher through email. However, my information made the case much bigger. Soon I had a sex crime detective calling me, and she told me not to give any more information to the school or school district because she did not trust them. That's always a nice thing to hear from the police, right? This teacher was eventually arrested, though, and convicted after Homeland Security and the FBI also joined the investigation and actually found child pornography on his computer. What came out in the media, though, was that many parents had complained to the principal and also other schools about this teacher for years, as he had been employed by other schools too, and nothing had ever been done about him. By the way, this principal and teacher were very good friends. What is even worse is that this teacher, after pleading guilty to one count of aggravated assault on a minor, which is also known as dangerous crimes against children, was only given 15 years of supervised probation and no jail time. Well, the town was shocked by this sentence. Also, he was supposed to be entered into the sex offender registry, but to this day, his name is still not in the registry. So it's been a few years since this happened, and he is still not in the registry. Even a newspaper article had recently questioned why his name was not in there yet. Let me just note the obvious. This town was small and quite corrupt, and I did refuse to accept a contract for the following year, since once again I was not treated well in many ways after I went to the police with my information from the girls. Now, let me tell you one more thing that happened in that school in this small town that almost had me just running out of it on my last day of school. This town was quite ridiculous. All right before the situation with the predator teacher, I was contacted one day by Child Protective Services, and I was told that I was actually counseling a girl who was being sex trafficked. Well, this was new to me, and I started being contacted by underground people who helped rescue sex trafficked kids. It was a whole new scary world that I never knew existed. And I found out something that's probably pretty obvious to most people, that Arizona was indeed the major hub of sex trafficking. It's not surprising given our location near the border. I went to the principal and told him that I was concerned about this sex trafficked girl, and I was also worried that we could have sex traffickers hanging around the school and approaching other students. Now, his reaction was really unexpected. He didn't act surprised about the sex traffickers, but he was really upset that I was talking about it, and he wanted an assurance that I would say nothing to anyone. Well, when I told my contact in the underground advocacy world, she warned me to watch out because he could be involved in sex trafficking, judging by his reaction. She said many prominent people are involved in trafficking, which I guess all of us have found out recently due to certain news stories, but at that time, I didn't know any of that. She also said to be aware of my surroundings when I went to my car in the school parking lot at the end of every day. Well, that was certainly something that scared me. And I did have reason to wonder later whether the predator teacher was connected to the sex trafficking world too. Needless to say, like I said, I was really happy and relieved to finally leave that corrupt, deceptively nice little town at the end of the school year. Now, my last and most recent experience with sexual harassment in a school was the one that many of you have read about. It was the final straw for me regarding K-12 schools. I'll rehash this story as quickly as possible. I reported this counselor who admitted to the harassment, but remains to this day in his position. However, I was the one who was placed on paid administrative leave after I made a Title IX report and told the district that this counselor and the principal retaliated against me. Now, let me explain that Title IX is a federal law that prohibits sexual harassment in schools, and it also prohibits retaliation for making Title IX reports. I used the same lawyer that I had contacted for my first case of sexual harassment, and he negotiated a settlement with the district in exchange for my promise not to file claims against them. Now, I would not have agreed to this settlement if I had known nothing would be done about this counselor and the principal. I reported this situation to the state school board of education, which I am mandated by law to do, even though the superintendent failed to do so, despite also being mandated to report educator misconduct. I expected the state board to discipline the counselor. Well, the investigator told me they would not be pursuing this matter because they talked to the district and they were assured that the district investigated this matter fully. Now, this was strange because it was the job of the state investigator to do his own investigation. That was the whole point of reporting it to them. Also, keep in mind the counselor admitted to this harassment, so should have been disciplined by the State Board of Education. Now, when I recently requested public records from the school district, I found there had been no investigation conducted. Then I told the State Board of Education official about this, and he still did not find the need to further investigate this matter. I can't get anyone to do anything about this. But if more things happen to innocent children at the hands of this counselor, I'm on record for telling many people that I warned them. And like I said at the beginning of the video, I have documentation for just about everything I tell all of you. Now, in case you're wondering whether my stories are isolated incidents, please check Keep This Between Us, a must-see documentary that examines the prevalence of predators, groomers in schools, which are shown to do everything they can to bury these scandals under the rug, like I've seen. It's a powerful documentary, and it's a terrible issue that's going on. Also visit the website for the National Center on Sexual Exploitation, which claims that school campuses can be a hub for sex trafficking. They state, educational environments are often where traffickers go to groom and exploit children. I quoted them as saying that. Now, we usually think of traffickers as people who are kidnapping our children and taking them to other countries. Well, that happens too, but there are many children in nice suburban towns being trafficked without their parents' knowledge, as strange as that sounds. They may leave your house and say they're going out with friends, but they're in actuality meeting clients. I also have counseled teens who have been victims of attempted kidnappings by sex traffickers in broad daylight, walking home from school, or in parking lots after leaving a store. And this is even happening in one of the recently rated top 10 safest towns in the entire country, which happens to be near me in Arizona. One girl was taken into a car by traffickers, but she luckily escaped by opening the car door and jumping out of the moving vehicle. Of course, she's left with severe PTSD, but at least she's safe, alive, in recovery. It's really scary. So please tell your children to be very careful about this very real danger in every state in this country. Also, you can check your children's phones and make sure they're not sending inappropriate pictures of themselves to anyone, since social media is also a prime place for grooming children. Until next time, take care, and thanks again for listening.